This video is brought to you by YT Andrew Paul Tech Repairs. If you have a console, laptop, computer or MacBook in need of repair in the UK or the EU, then have a look in the description below this video for details on how to contact us in order to organise your repair. Right, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the upgrade procedure to install a brand new larger hard disk drive inside your Xbox One. And this particular procedure is the same whether it be for the original Xbox, the Xbox One S or the Xbox One X. So the procedure is the same. Obviously the consoles are ever so slightly different, but the basic procedure is the same, and we're going to go through what that procedure is today. And today we're going to be performing this upgrade on an Xbox One S, the smaller, slimmer white one of course, and that's going to be what we're doing today. So the drive on the left that you're looking at now is the original drive installed in the Xbox One S. And this particular machine came to us because it was having a few sort of strange issues. You know, some apps wouldn't launch and load, and then things got slowly worse until the console wouldn't start up for the user. So obviously that's a bit of a problem. It came here. The hard disk drive was identified as being at fault. It had quite a number of bad sectors on there, but the disk wouldn't reliably recover. So in that case, obviously we need to replace the drive. And what we do in that scenario is obviously, you know, sometimes some people would like the opportunity to upgrade their drive at the same time as we're replacing it. You know, kill two birds with one stone, and that's a sensible approach because by default most of these machines, certainly in the UK, ship with a 500GB hard disk drive, and some of these game installations and stuff are upwards of 40-50 gigs. So obviously some people would prefer a little bit more space on their drive, and this particular customer has chosen to actually get that upgrade done at the same time. So we offer a 500GB like for like disk swap, 1TB or 2TB hard disk drive upgrades. So there's quite a range of options there depending on how big you want to go. And of course you don't have to wait for your drive to become faulty to do that. You can do that whenever you like, but in this particular case it just made sense to do it for the customer, so that's exactly what we're doing. So the drive on the left is the original. It's a Seagate Video 2.5-inch hard disk drive. The Microsoft part number on that one there is X895443-001, and I've been seeing quite a strange number of these drives failing. The spindle seems to randomly spin down, and then you'll lose access to the disk for 25-30 minutes, and then it'll all of a sudden kick back into life again. So obviously that drive isn't particularly happy. It looks like it's had a small head crash because it did recover about 30-40 bad sectors on there, but it's just not reliably spinning up. So we have taken the option to actually upgrade this to a 2TB Seagate Barracuda drive. So, you know, there should be a nice bit of storage increase on this one. So you can more or less use any hard disk drive or SSD you like to upgrade your Xbox storage. There are just a few rules, and those rules are regardless as to what size hard disk you're going to need, at least a 500GB disk or a 500GB SSD as a minimum. And what you can do is you can use up to a maximum of 2TB. Now, where this kind of gets tricky is you can say, yes, but I've got a 750GB hard disk drive. Can I use that? And the answer is yes, you can. The only difference being is that you'll have to format it as a 500GB disk, so you'll only have the 500 gigs worth of storage on there, so you'll lose the 250GB that's surplus. Likewise, if you've got a 1.5TB hard disk drive, for example, you can use a terabyte of that, or 500GB of that, but you'll be losing the extra 500GB or extra 1TB of space, depending on how you want to format it. Or you can just plunk for the full 2TB upgrade and use that. So the choice is entirely up to you. This will work with SSDs as well. So for example, if you've got a 512GB SSD, you can format it as a 500GB hard disk drive and everything's going to work honky-dory. So the choice is yours. But there are, like I say, a few small rules, and those are them really. So other than that, you're cool. You can use this to upgrade storage, so you can go from a 500GB disk to a 1TB or a 2TB. You can also use this procedure to downgrade the size of your hard disk if that's what you'd rather. So let's say, for example, you had a 1TB Xbox One and you've only got a 500GB hard disk drive kicking around in the cupboard somewhere, and you just want to use that. Then again, you can use this to downgrade your storage as well. It's completely up to you. But for today's example, we're going to go from this 500GB hard disk drive to this 2TB. Now, in this particular instance, as you can see, we have the original hard disk drive out of this machine. We're not going to show you how to disassemble the Xbox One or the One S or the One X in this particular video, because there's plenty of tutorial videos on YouTube already showing you that. And in fact, I'll link you some good ones in the description below for this video. So if you do want to know how to get your machine apart, then follow those. Those tutorials can put together a little bit better than I can with my limited camera options I have available. But regardless, to say that once you've got your hard disk drive out, you can follow this procedure to a T and you'll be fine. Now, the important thing is you will need to follow this procedure to the letter, and failure to do so, you're going to sort of run into problems and you're going to struggle. Okay, so whatever I do on this video, you need to follow to the T. Now, and likewise, if you want to use this video to format your existing hard disk drive, now, so let's say you're having issues with your Xbox One and you want to format the disk to see if this will cure its ills, you can format your existing hard disk drive and try to follow this procedure to actually reinstate it. What I will say is that the original hard disk drives in Xbox Ones, including these in the One S, seem to have developed a nasty issue of actually developing bad sectors. They are the cheap, nasty, horrible hard disk drives they put in here, and they're not particularly brilliant. They're not particularly reliable either, from what I've seen. So, you know, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to do a bad sector check just to ensure that the fact that, you know, the issues you're having aren't down to bad sectors on the disk, because there's a high probability in most of these instances this is where most of the Xbox One's ills actually develops from. So you're going to have to be very, very mindful with the storage. Run a bad sector check on it. Use HDAT2. Can be downloaded for free from hdat2.com. Put it onto a USB bootable stick. Boot your PC with it, and you know, connect this hard disk drive to your PC. Run the sector check on it, and you will be fine. I'm going to do a HDAT2 tutorial shortly to show you what you're going to need to do in order to do that. But likewise, today we're just going to focus on this storage upgrade. So if you want to follow this procedure along at home, you're going to need a couple of things. Obviously, you're going to need the tools to dismantle your original Xbox One or One S or One X or whatever it is you're using. And you're also going to need your new hard disk drive. So the old one there on the left is junk. The one on the right, just over there, is our new one that we're going to be using. So you're going to need your new hard disk drive, and you're going to need some manner of connecting it to your PC. So if you're using a desktop PC, of course, you can plug this drive directly into power from your power supply and a SATA header on your motherboard and use that. Alternatively, if you have a laptop, you can use a USB to SATA converter. These can be bought for just a couple of pounds from most computer hardware shops, local shops, things like that, you know, that do computer bits will probably have something similar. Or you can just route one out of an original USB hard disk drive you've got kicking around. A lot of those just have these little converter plates in there that basically plug into a standard 2.5-inch SATA hard disk drive and give you a USB connection on the other end. If you're lucky enough to have something like that, perfect. But they can be bought really cheaply from eBay, Amazon, like I say, local computer hardware shops, stuff like that. And they're only about sort of £5-10 quid, something like that here in the UK. So nice and cheap. So you're going to need one of those. Most people probably already got one. So providing you've got that, and you've got a laptop or a PC that you can use, and you've got your new hard disk drive, and it's out, you know, or you've got your original Xbox One hard disk drive out of your current Xbox, and you've checked it for bad sectors, and you've formatted it, and it's ready to rock and roll, then you can follow on the next step. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to jump on the PC now, and we're going to get this drive prepared and ready to be accepted by our Xbox. So let's go do that now. Right, okay then, ladies and gentlemen. So to begin, what we're going to need to do is download a couple of files in the description of this video. There's a couple of files linked down there. You're going to need to download those. The first one is called OSE1.zip. That is directly from Microsoft and is the inbuilt recovery environment we're going to need to run on our Xbox in order to get the thing to recognize the disk and reinstall the OS software. We're also going to need that in this step beforehand. We're going to need that to prepare the new hard disk drive, so make sure you download it. That link will remain current, so even if you're watching this in 12 months' time, that link should still be the very, very latest OSE1 recovery environment for this month's dashboard. So you're going to need to download that. The other thing we're going to need to download there is that zip file, Xbox One HDD-master-5.zip. And you know, we're going to need to put those in a folder on your machine. Now, I've already done that, and I've put these zip files in a folder on my drive called CXB1. So that's the folder I've downloaded these files to. Okay, you're going to need to make a note of that for later, because we're going to have to type some commands into into Windows to do some bits and pieces of magic with a hard disk drive. Okay, so make a note of where you've downloaded those files to. So navigate, Open Explorer or this PC and go to that location where you've downloaded your files, and you'll see them here. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to extract this zip file, Xbox One HDD Master 5, and we're going to extract that to, we're going to extract here. Okay, so that's going to copy all those files out, and it's going to put it in this Xbox One HDD Master folder. Okay, we're going to go into there, and we're going to go into Win. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a note of that path, CXB1 Xbox One HDD-Master Win, okay, because that's got the files in there, and what does the magic with our hard drive to get our Xbox to talk to it and to work with it, okay. Without that, we're stuffed. So credit where credit's due, because the original creator of this script is a guy called Xfix. He has a YouTube channel. Check out his channel in the link below. He's got some fantastic content on there, and without this little program, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you very much to Xfix. He's a legend. Thank you, mate, if you are watching this. So remember to go check his channel out if you've got time there, and give him a subscribe. Okay, so those files are what's going to do the magic. Now then, just a note before you begin this process: if you're using any other language than English on your OS, you are going to want to go and download the US English language pack and install it on your machine and give it a reboot. What this script will do is, when you actually run it, it will try to change the language to US English if you haven't already got an English language in use on your machine. Now, we're fine, we have, so it's not going to be an issue for us. But if you're using French, German, Portuguese, Spanish, whatever language you like as your main OS language, then you're going to want to install that. The reason for that is because the script actually looks for some specific words in the output of the script we're going to run. And if it doesn't find those words that are in English in the output, then it fails. Okay, so it is a necessary step. So if you haven't got an English language pack on there, it's free download from Microsoft. Basically just install it and reboot your machine, and then pick this up, and we'll carry on from there. So we have that, and we've extracted the files to our hard disk drive, and we know they're in the CXB1 Xbox One HDD-Master /Win folder. So make a note of this path, because we're going to need it. Okay, and what we're going to do next is we're going to take our brand new hard drive, and we're going to plug it into our USB to SATA adapter, and then we're going to plug the USB cable into our laptop, because we're using a laptop today. Okay, now then, you might not see anything because this is a brand new hard disk drive, okay? So we're going to right click on the little Windows icon. We're using Windows 10, as I presume most people are these days. So we're going to go directly to Disk Management. I believe the shortcut is the same for Windows 8 and 8.1. If you're using something older, like Windows 7, to get to this window, if you go to Start Control Panel, and then there's an icon in there for administrative tools. You go into there, there's an option for computer management. If you go into that, there's an option down the left hand side window pane there for disk management. Go into there, you'll see the exact same thing that we're seeing now. Okay, so we're going to open disk management, and hopefully there you should see your new hard drive. Now we notice here we have disk 2. You may, in some instances, if this is a brand new disk straight out of the box, as this one is, you may see a window asking you to initialize disk. Okay, now it doesn't matter what's in that window, just press OK, and that little window will disappear, and you will continue to see this. Okay, it doesn't matter, just OK it. Okay, and then you'll see this. And like I say, we can see here that our 2 TB hard disk drive has 1,862.89 gigs free. That space is currently unallocated, and Windows has assigned it a disk number disk 2. So make a note of disk 2, because that's our disk drive we're going to be using for our Xbox, and we want to make sure that we can refer to it later, so make a note of it. What we're going to do, just to sort of like do a bit of housekeeping, on this unallocated space, we're just going to right click, we're going to go to New Simple Volume. Welcome to the new Simple Volume Wizard, so we're going to hit Next. Simple volume size in megabytes, that's going to use the entire disk. Again, that will pre-populate. Just say Next. Assign the following drive letter, doesn't matter, just say Next. Asking us for the type of file system we want to use and the volume label, again, doesn't matter, just say Next. and finish. So you just click your next, all the way through that wizard and finish. And what will happen is you will get, yeah, there we are, new volume and a drive letter assigned. It'll open a blank Explorer window telling you it's empty. If you go back to this PC or my computer or whatever, you should see an icon for it now, and it says we've got 1.81 terabytes free of 1.81 terabytes. Fantastic. You can close that, don't need it. But you can see there now in disk management we have a new volume, and we can see that our 1862.89 gigs is now NTFS formatted, and we have a healthy primary partition. Okay, brilliant, lovely. So we can just close that now, we're done. So remember earlier on we needed to make a note of the path where we'd extracted all our gubbins to that's going to be used to format our hard disk drive? Good, because we're going to need that now. So if you're not an administrator on your computer, you're going to need to make sure you are, okay? Or you at least have the privileges to be able to run things as administrator. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hit start, and we're going to type CMD, and we're going to get this icon here for command prompt. We're going to right click that, and we're going to select run as administrator. Now you may get a UAC account pop up asking you if you're sure you want to allow that. If you get that, just say yes, and you will eventually get this command prompt to open up, and it says administrator. Okay, and that's going to start up in this folder C Windows System 32. Excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to go cd ... which is going to go up a directory, take us to C Windows. We're going to go cd ... and enter again, and that's going to take us to the root of the C drive, C://. Lovely. So that's essentially right in our C drive. So where do we want to go? So we next need to go to a folder where we extracted everything. So C:/XB1. So that's where we're going next. So we're going to type CD, which stands for directory with a space, and we're going to press the X key and tab. And you can see there now it automatically fills in our folder name for us, so XB1. Now if we had more than one folder that starts with an X, we could just keep hitting tab and it would cycle through all the folders we've got that begin with X. Once we have the right folder, we just hit enter and it takes us there. So it saves us a load of typing. So C:/XB1. We can now see we need to go to this Xbox One HDD-master folder. So we type CD space X again, because the folder starts with an X, tab, and you'll notice it pre-populates. Press enter. Now we need to go into the Win folder. So CD space W, tab, completes it for us. CD space Win, enter. Okay, now then, what we need to do is we need to run this file here, create_xbox_drive.bat. Okay, so it works very similar with files as it does with folders. So we're going to type CR for create, hit tab, fills everything in for us. Lovely. We're lazy, we don't like doing typing on this channel, so we hit enter. Okay, and that's going to start our script. So we can see here now, look, that this indeed, the first thing it's going to do is try and change our language to English. Now we're already using English, so this isn't going to be a problem for us. You know, it's just going to carry on as normal. But if you are using any other language than English, in the background this is going to try and change things. So remember, it's looking for certain English words, which is why it needs to do this. So we're just going to allow it to run. This is partly why you need to be running the command prompt as administrator, and it may fail otherwise. So you can see now, look, that we are given an option to select the disk. So select disk to format as an Xbox drive. Okay, now if you leave this prompt for 30 seconds, it'll cancel and it'll stop. Okay, so if you type 0 and enter again, the process will cancel. So it's just looking for a number. Now remember, our disk was disk 2, so we're going to type 2, and it's going to go away and it's going to do some things. Okay, and then it's going to come back. Right, so we've selected disk 2, and you can see now down here it's given us a GUID. It knows it's the E drive, and it knows it's this 1862 gig disk that's called new volume. Remember that from earlier? Good. So now it's saying this will erase all data on this disk. Do you want to continue? Y for yes or N for no? Well, yes, we want to continue because we've got the right disk. So we just type Y. We don't even have to hit enter. Okay, it does it for us. So you can see there now it's saying that this too will be formatted as an Xbox One. Okay, so what size do you want to format it to? Well, we're using a 2 terabyte hard disk, remember? So we want to use option D. If you're using a 1 terabyte hard disk, you can use option C. If you're using a 500 gigabyte hard disk or your original hard disk that was included in your Xbox One, select B. Okay. Now then, like I say, if you're running, if you've got a 750 gig drive and you're wanting to use that, select it as option B, 500 gig. If you've got a 1.5 terabyte hard disk drive and you want to use it, select C for 1 terabyte standard. Okay. And likewise, you can always use, but those are the only 3 partition sizes you can use: 500 gig, 1 terabyte, and 2 terabyte. There is an option there for auto size, but it doesn't work very well. So I'd steer clear of that if you want to avoid issues. Okay, so we're going for a 2 terabyte standard disk. So we're going to hit D, and this time we are going to have to press enter because we've got a 2 terabyte drive. We want to format it and use the full 2 terabytes. So now it's going to go away. Now then, it's going to pop loads of stuff up. Don't touch it. Okay, it's going to pop loads and loads and loads and loads of stuff. We're just going to leave it be. It's going to ask you to format things. It's going to open loads of File Explorer windows. We aren't touching it. We're just going to leave it be. Okay. Now we see that we've got the command prompt window there. If you want to bring that back to the front, just click it and you'll be able to see what it's doing. But as you can see there, it says it's removing existing partitions and now it's creating the new partitions. Okay, so just leave it. It may take a while, especially if you're using a bigger disk. Okay, so you can see there now we have a list of partitions on our system. It's formatting those partitions. You'll hear beeps and bongs if your speakers are on. Like I say, you'll get loads of, look at all the things down on our taskbar that are open. We ain't touching anything. Don't be tempted to press anything at this point. Just leave it. So now it's going to reassign some new drive letters for our new partitions, and it's going to swish everything around. Again, we aren't touching anything, just leave it. It all looks a bit scary. Just leave it. Okay, and then eventually you're going to see this. So we now have a U, V, W, X and Y partition. We notice everything's been assigned to GUID. Our 2 terabyte disk has been assigned to GUID. All the partitions have a name now and a size associated with them. The important one that we're going to be paying attention to is this one here, X, for system update. That's our system update partition. We're going to be using that now. It's assigned an X drive letter. Okay, that's important. The script will check to make sure that that's present. As we can see here, it says it's found the X drive. Providing it finds that, it's going to be happy. So script execution is complete, and the script will now change the command line interface back to the default language. So remember, if you were using anything other than English, basically this script's changed your language to English and now it's going to change it back for you. Happy days. So press any key to continue. We're happy to continue. And eventually that window is going to disappear of its own accord. Completed, and then you can see it chucks us back to the command line interface, and you'll see the Win folder displayed there. Once you see that, just type exit and enter. Brilliant. Now then, you'll see that you've still got all these File Explorer boxes and format prompts and things like that. Don't let it format anything. Just cancel them. So the format prompts cancel, and the Explorer windows you're going to close. So format box cancel, close the window. Format box cancel, close the window, and just keep doing that for each of these you see, because we don't want to touch anything now. All this has been done for us. We know it's been successful. Lovely. And that just takes us back. Of course, we've still got our window open here that we had earlier on. We don't need that now. But what we will notice, if we go back to my computer or this PC, depending on which version of Windows you're using, we've now got 5 extra partitions available to us. So we have a temp content U drive, a user content V drive, a system support W drive, a system update X drive, and a system update 2 Y drive. Fantastic. That's everything we need. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to prepare this disk for use in our Xbox. So it's formatted correctly and our Xbox should be happy to use it, but it's going to need some files to help it out. Because of course, most of the Xbox OS and the dashboard runs from the hard disk. Currently this hard disk is blank, so there's nothing on it. So we need to help it out. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the system update folder. Lovely jubbly. We are going to create a couple of new folders in here. So we're going to create a folder called A. We're going to create another folder. We're going to call it B. So those are in the root of the X partition. So we've just gone into the X drive. We've created 2 blank folders, A and B. You'll notice A is empty and B is empty. Okay, excellent. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to where we downloaded our things earlier, and we're going to find our OSE1.zip. We are going to extract the contents. So we're going to open the zip file, $system update folder. We're going to go into there, and this is going to show us a big list. A big old list of files. So these are all XVD files. Now the structure of the OSE1 recovery environment has changed this month. So these folders are new. So these files are new. Okay. So if you watched our old video that we had on the channel, and the link to that's in the description as well, it's still current and the process is the same. obviously now there's a lot more files, and it tended to confuse people, because in fact the month I created the original video, they added an extra file in, and it created all, I just got hundreds of people asking questions. Oh, I've got an extra file, I've got another file, I've got another file. Regardless to how many files you've got, you want them all. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to select all the files in that zip file, and we are going to extract them, and we're going to put them we're going to extract them to our X drive, system update. I'm going to extract them to A, and we're going to say OK to that. So we can see now, look, it's going to copy these files to x:\A. Brilliant. So we're going to say OK to that. And it's going to go away, and it's going to take all the files out of the archive, and it's going to put them directly into our A folder. So while that is doing, let's just go into that folder where we're extracting everything to, and you should start to see that all those files are going to start magically appearing. So we're just going to let this thing do what it wants to do. So we can see there we have 30% of the process complete, and that's flying along because we've got our drive connected via a USB 3 port using a USB 3 SATA to USB adapter, so everything's nice and quick, because there's the best part of 5 terabytes worth of data being copied across to this partition now. So just let it complete, 58%. So the key here is to be patient. 87%, 88%. So all our files are now copied out of this archive. We can close that because we're done. Okay, so here now in our X drive, in the A folder, we have extracted all our files from our OSU1 archive. So we've closed that now because we're done with it. What we're going to want to do now is, you see this file here called updata.xvd. Find that. We're going to right click and we're going to cut. And we're going to go upper level, so we're going to go into the root of our X drive. Okay, and we're just going to right click in the empty space and we're going to say it's paste. Okay, so that updata.xvd file now we've moved from our A folder just to the root of the X drive. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back into the A folder. We're going to hit Control and A on the keyboard, which will select all the files, and then we're going to right click and we're going to select copy, or you could press Control C on the keyboard. We're going to go back to the root of X. We're going to go into the B folder now, and we're going to right click and we're going to paste. So what this will do is this will make sure that all the same files are in A as are in B, and of course our updated.xvd file we've already moved to the root of the X drive. So this is important. This is going to be needed for our Xbox to recognise the disk. Okay, while we're here as well, this would be a good time to get your USB stick formatted. So you are going to need a USB stick for this procedure as well. So something at least sort of 8 gigabytes in size is going to be required for this. Anything smaller than that probably isn't going to work. So at least 8 gigabytes in size. The USB stick, preferably a branded one, so we're going to be using a SanDisk USB 3.0 USB drive today. You're going to want at least something similar. Cheap USB sticks tend to work, but they can be troublesome. You can end up finding that the Xbox will freeze at certain points in the update procedure. So it's always best to use a quality branded stick. As I say, at least the size of 8 gigabytes. So we're using this SanDisk 32 gig USB drive, and we're going to prepare that shortly because we're going to need that for our Xbox. Lovely. So all our files are copied across. So we've got all those files there now in B. If we go back to the root of the X drive, we go back into folder A, we have the exact same files in A as in B. And on the root of our X drive, we have our updata.xvd file. Up to now, everything we've done will work nicely, but this is just to round it off. Basically, if you look in the description of the video, there is a third folder called bootanimations.zip. This little file here, if you click on that download link and download that, essentially what will happen at the moment is, without this file we're going to show you in a second, the machine will boot and it'll work fine, but initially it will start to a black screen, and then after a minute or so the main menu will appear. Now obviously, if you can live with that, that's fine, but what this next step we'll do is actually put the sort of green screen, Xbox One logo back up for you when the machine starts up. So it's always nice to know when you see that your machine's working away. At the moment, you're just going to be looking at a black screen and wondering what the hell's going on. So anyway, if you click on the download link in the description, you'll find that bootanimations.zip. If you download that to the same place as where you downloaded your OSU1.zip and the Xbox One HDD Master 5.zip, as before, what we're going to do is, as you can see, we have our hard disk drive still hooked up to our PC here. Okay, so what we're going to do is with this bootanimations.zip file, we're going to open it up. And inside you'll see two folders, Xbox One Fat and S and Xbox One X. So basically all you need to do is go into the folder for the Xbox you have. On today's example, we are looking at an Xbox One S, so we're going to go into there. And in whichever folder you decide to go into, you'll find a file here called bootanim.dat. What you're going to do is you're just going to highlight that file, and you're going to extract it, and we are going to extract it to our X drive, which is down here, and we're going to extract it to the A partition. Okay, and we're going to say OK to that. And that's it, we're done. So if we actually go back to the X drive now, and we look in our A folder, we'll find we have another file here called bootanim.dat. Excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to copy. We're going to go back to the root of our X drive. We're going to go into the B folder. We're going to right click and we're going to paste. Okay, and our bootanim.dat file now is in folders A and B, which is where it needs to be. What this will ensure is that once our machine is back together, we've got a hard disk back in there. When we boot the machine and we've reinstalled the software, that will ensure that our boot animation is also restored. So basically it puts it back to as it would be out of the box. Like I say, at the moment, without that bootanim.dat file, it doesn't matter, your machine will still work. You'll just see a black screen while it boots, which may be a little bit confusing later down the line if your machine develops hard disk problems again in the future, for example. As an aside as well, some people have asked, can you use the Xbox One X splash screen on the Xbox One and S because it is slightly different? The answer is yes, you can indeed do that, but of course on the next dashboard update or a future dashboard update, that file may be overwritten with the proper one. But for the time being, if you want to have a dabble with it and have a look, then by all means, yes, you can indeed swap between the two. Fantastic. And that's it. We're done with our hard disk drive. So if we go back into my computer, we can see that all our other partitions, temp content, user content, system support, and system update 2 are blank. And our system update X partition has quite a few files on it now. So we're done. So what we can do now is we can eject our mass storage device. And we can now safely remove that from the computer. Excellent, we're done with that. That's ready to go back in our Xbox, but hold your horses for just a second, because we're now going to prepare our USB stick for use in our Xbox. So plug your USB stick in. You can see we've already got some files and folders on here. This is actually PS4 recovery software. So if anything is important to you on that USB stick, back it up, because you're going to format it, you're going to lose it. So once you've done that, of course, we're going to go back to my computer. Our USB stick is here. We're going to right click and we're going to format that USB stick. We need to format it to NTFS. The default Windows will probably try to create FAT32 on your removable drive. We want to change that to NTFS. Allocation unit size is 4096 bytes or default allocation size, whichever one. Volume label, I always like to just give it OSU1. Quick format is fine. Hit start. It's going to warn you that you're going to lose all your data. Be sure you've copied everything off if you care about anything on there, and say OK. Doesn't take long. It says format complete. Say OK to that and close. Okay, so our USB stick again has been given the letter of E drive by Windows. Folder's empty. It's got nothing on it. Fantastic. So we're going to go back to where we downloaded our zip files to earlier. So CXP1, OSU1.zip, open it, and we've got this $system update folder. We're going to extract that entire folder, and we're going to extract it to our E drive, OSU1, which we handily named earlier. And we're going to say OK. We can see there, of course, that that's the folder we're extracting, and we're going to say OK. As before, if you If you're nosy, you can always go to E drive and you can see there, look, we have a system update folder there now, and all these files are going to start copying down to our USB stick. Again, you can watch it there on the taskbar, so it's 8% complete at the moment. Again, it may take a minute or so depending on what sort of USB stick you're using, whether it's USB 3 or USB 2. If it's USB 2, you're going to be in for a fair old wait. So the key here is just to be patient and let it complete. Some of these files are fairly big, so they take a little bit of extracting. So if it stops on a certain percentage and whatever, then just be patient. You can do it. Whee! Lovely. Right, finished. So that's all the files extracted out of our OSU1.zip to our USB stick on the E drive. And remember, this time on the USB stick, we've extracted everything in this $system update folder, including the folder itself. So it's important all these files are in the $system update folder on our USB stick, and we've done that. So again, we can eject our USB stick. Okay, safe to remove the hardware. We're done. Lovely. Right, so we have OSU1 on our USB stick. We have our Xbox hard disk drive prepared for use in the console, and we have our recovery environment files on the X drive system update partition. So we're ready now to put the hard drive back in the Xbox and reassemble the Xbox. We're happy there now that that should be good to go. So we're going to go and do that now. We're going to go reinstall this hard drive in the Xbox and then join us back here and we'll show you what to do next. Right, okay ladies and gentlemen, so by now we should have our Xbox all reassembled again with our new hard disk drive contained within, and we should have our USB stick with our $system update folder and all our OSU1 files on there, and we're ready to go. So the first thing we're going to need to do is insert the USB stick into the front of our console. So if you're using an original FAT Xbox One, that's the port on the front left hand side of the machine. If you are using an Xbox One S, it's the USB port on the front, and likewise with the Xbox One X. So it's the front USB ports on those two, and it's the one on the left hand side on the original FATs. So just plug your USB stick in, okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go through on the screen what you need to do. And it's really quite simple. So what we're going to do is we are going to press and hold the sync and eject buttons. So we're going to press them together and keep them held, and we're going to keep those two buttons held throughout this next part of the procedure. Okay, and we're going to go through it on the screen as well. So first of all, we're going to press and hold sync and eject. Whilst we're holding those two, we're going to tap the power button as though we normally would, as if we were going to turn the machine on to actually use it. Okay, so just going to give it a quick tap and power the machine up. Once we do that, we're going to hear the Xbox One power up tone, the ding, which I know is a really bad impression, but you know. Anyway, we need to count the number of power up tones we hear because they're important. Okay, so as soon as you tap the power button and you hear that ding, that's the first power up tone. We're going to keep the sync and eject buttons held, remember. Within the next 10 seconds or so, you should hear a second power-up tone. That means that the Xbox has acknowledged the fact we want to boot to recovery and has found the files on the hard disk. Okay, we're going to keep those sync and eject buttons held. Okay, and we're going to keep them held until we hear a third power-up tone. That means that it's found update media on USB, and it's going to use those USB files to restore the dashboard to the console. It's at this point when you hear the third power-up tone you can release, sync and eject, and within a couple of seconds you should see the screen start up on the Xbox with the installation process, and within a couple of seconds you should hear a fourth and final power-up tone. If you hear that, that's good. You can sit back and relax. So okay, so let's do it. So hopefully you'll be able to pick up on the microphone the number of power-up tones we hear. So we're going to do this here. On the screen at the moment it's black because we've got the video capture running from the Xbox to the Blackmagic and into the computer, so you can see exactly what's going on the screen. So we're going to press and hold sync and eject. We're going to tap the power button. First power-up tone. Keeping sync and eject held. Second power-up tone. Third power-up tone and release. Okay, there's the fourth power-up tone, and we can see now we are preparing the console. So You can see on the screen there now exactly what our console is planning to do. So it's going to install the update. That basically means it's going to copy the files from the USB to the hard disk. It's going to verify the update, so it's going to check that those files are present and correct, and then it's going to apply the update, which means it's actually going to put the update onto the box as we need it to do so. Okay, so this may take a little while, but to be honest, it's not too bad, especially if it's a new hard disk drive and things like that, because they're fairly quick things these days. And the fact that we're using a USB 3.0 USB stick should mean that this copy process goes fairly smoothly. Now, at some point during this procedure, it is going to reboot the machine, so your console will reboot. Don't panic if it goes black and it makes a power down tone. That's perfectly normal halfway through the procedure. We're going to leave this to run through so you can see exactly what it does and when. So don't panic. Providing you heard those 4 power up tones, you should be good to go. Okay. So we're installing the update, 53%. So remember, we're not pressing any buttons, we're not touching the console at all during this procedure. So we're nearly done there now installing update. Installation is complete, so now it's going to go away and verify, so it's going to make sure that the files copied during the installation procedure are good. Now then, what a lot of people do wonder is why we copied the files to the hard disk drive when, you know, we've copied them to the USB stick and we're using the USB stick. Well, you can actually try to boot the console just using the hard disk drive, but it seems to be a bit hit and miss. Half the time it will work, half the time it doesn't. It falls over with an error. From the USB stick, it actually seems to have a much higher rate of completion. Certainly, you know, I've never run into an issue when booting from USB, so that's just the way that I advise you to use it. If you want to try and boot it from the hard disk drive, then by all means feel free to have a go and do so. But the USB stick I do recommend, because I've never had a machine fail on me when updating via the USB. So that's why we do it. The other reason is that the Xbox will actually look for those files when it starts up in order to acknowledge the recovery environment. So if you don't have anything there and it's just blank, then the console won't boot. So that's the reason why we copy files to the hard disk drive. So anyway, we're nearly done here now, so verifying 80%. I believe it's the end of the verification stage when it reboots, if I remember rightly. Okay, machine's going down for reboot now. Okay, stage 3, so our machine is now going to start applying the update. So our machine rebooted itself there, we didn't have to turn it back on, we didn't have to touch it, we just let it do what it had to do. Again, don't panic if yours does that, it's perfectly normal. As long as it comes back up and it shows you this screen, just be happy. So it's 18% of the way through reapplying the update. Now then, once it's done this, it is going to attempt, when it comes back into the OS, it's going to attempt to check for an update. So you will need a valid internet connection. I think my broadband seems to be down today for some reason, so this could be interesting. So remember, we've kept the USB stick in the front. We haven't touched that, we haven't removed it. The USB stick is still inserted. We haven't touched any buttons, we haven't synced any controllers or anything. It's important to leave this procedure and just let the box do what it needs to do. We approach 70%, 72. Should be coming up to the point now where we're close to the finishing line. 82%. Not long to go. Okay, so 100%, 3 ticks, application complete, step 3 of 3, so machine's going to go dark, it's going to come back up, so connect to Xbox Live, check network connection, or exit. It's not quite what I was expecting to see, I'll be honest. Normally it comes back with the initialization menu asking you to update your Xbox. So, oh well, so let's go to exit. I'll admit I wasn't expecting to see that. We've got a black screen. Okay, right, okay, yeah. Right. So this is what sometimes happens. So what will normally happen at this point, what you will probably find happen, is that your machine is going to boot to the option where you can actually, it looks like the initialization menu. So it's a grey screen and it asks you to go through the update and the full setup procedure. Okay, more often than not. Occasionally, and to be honest, I'm quite glad this has happened because this does sometimes happen. We do have a video on the channel which explains what to do if after this process you end up with a blank screen. You notice there that we had the external media device ready because we've still got a USB stick plugged in, and you also noticed a couple of buttons there. Yeah, and now we've got a blank screen, right? So if you happen to end up here, okay, this is what you need to do. Okay, so we're going to power the machine off. We're just going to tap the power button. I'm going to let it go down. So we're going to wait for the power light to stop blinking, which is now done. Okay, we're going to remove the power for 5 seconds, just enough for it to allow the power to dissipate. We're going to reapply power. We're going to leave our USB stick in the front port. Okay, we're going to press and hold the sync and eject button. Okay, like we did originally. We're going to keep those held all the way through this procedure. We're going to tap the power button whilst keeping sync and eject held, and we're going to wait for the second. So as soon as we tap the power button, we'll hear the first power up tone. Keep sync and eject held. We'll hear a second power up tone, and that's when we're going to release them. Okay, so sync and eject held. Power up, 1 tone. Keep eject sync held. Second power up tone, we're going to release, and that's going to bring us back to the troubleshooting menu. Okay. At this point, you'll need to resync your controller with the Xbox. Once that syncs, we're going to go down to bottom left, reset this Xbox. We're going to remove everything. Basically, what happens is that there's some persistent settings that's stored in Flash. So depending on what options and configurations you've got set on your Xbox before you change the hard disk drive, sometimes it sort of falls out with itself because some of the settings are reliant on hard disk drive files which are no longer present. So it gets its knickers in a twist and then it ends up starting up to a black screen rather than the setup menu. So all we need to do in that instance, and I'm glad it's happened on video because it doesn't normally happen, it normally behaves. So we're going to go to remove everything. I mean, even if your actual machine does start up to the initialization menu and you go through and configure it, the first thing you should do is actually go into the settings, console settings, reset the Xbox, and actually just reset it anyway, because you can end up with stuff like blank tiles in the dashboard menu. You can end up with some weird funky tiles. You know, the names of the tiles are weird, and you know, because the files just don't tally anymore with what it's expecting to see. So this basically, you know, you've got a nice clean hard drive, but you've still got some leftover gubbins in Flash, some persistent settings which need clearing out. So what this does is this just flushes everything out. So don't worry, it's not going to do a full system restore again. It's literally just going to reset the settings all back to factory default. It's going to ask us to wander through the setup and configuration menu. So just let it do. Just let it do what it wants to do. So we're on 50% now, 51. It doesn't take it long to do. A couple of minutes, as you'll see. We're not going to cut this or anything. We're just going to allow it to run through so you can see exactly what to expect if you end up in this boat as well. On the original video we did, it actually went straight through and it booted straight from the files on the hard drive and it went straight through and worked first time. It doesn't normally happen. So, you know, when people ran into issues, I'm like, oh, yeah, but I did exactly what you did and it didn't do what you did, what we saw it do for you. I'm like, don't worry, it doesn't normally do it for me either. It's because it was being filmed and it decided to behave that day. I'm glad it's actually, it's being awkward for once. Right, okay, so more often than not, this is where you will find it will start back up to. But if you do find it goes to a black screen, it's that simple to recover it. Okay, at this point you can remove the USB stick. Okay, it is safe to remove now, you're good to go. So again, we're going to have to resync the controller to the console. and just follow the on-screen prompts. Hey, my internet is working. Time to update. It wasn't working earlier. I don't know. We had an orange light on the router earlier on. It weren't having it. It's working now. Of course, whether it's actually working properly or not. So the console is going to go away now and check for any operating system updates it may need to apply. 46 meg. Oh, that's not bad, is it? We can do 46 meg. Now we'll see if my internet connection really is working. Whether it's painfully slow. I suspect we may know the answer to this one. It literally came back up halfway through that software install, so it's probably slow, and whether it'll stay connected or it'll go back off again now, who knows, but we'll leave it to see and find out. So you may find your machine does this as well. You know, you may find that it finds a small update. You may find it'll ask you to download a 4 gig update file. You just don't know till it comes back up, really. While we're waiting, we'll just address E106 as well, because E106 is quite a common error to find that you get during this sort of procedure. And E106 is actually down to, most of the time, the fact that the operating system update recovery environment, the OSE1 file, is actually out of date. It's an older version than what your console is currently expecting. So what you tend to find is the Dash Insider program users, if your console is enrolled on that program, or you know, if you've got one from eBay and it's messing about, there's a chance it was enrolled on that program, then yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare because you can't recover it. The only way around it is to wait until the following month when that month's Dash revision update is actually released. Microsoft do update the tool at the same time they release the dashboard, so once the next month's dashboard release is official, then you can go ahead and download it and try again. It should go through that time. Sometimes as well, people find that the update procedures stick on certain percentages, so 56% is a common one. That tends to be a USB stick issue. So again, the importance of using a good quality branded USB stick there usually helps. So, you know, something like a SanDisk USB stick, something like that, you know, a decent bit of kit is probably your best bet. You know, these cheap Chinese clone sticks and things like that, you know, no branded ones can be a little bit funny. So it's always best to use a proper USB stick. And at the end of the day, this is a firmware upgrade as well, don't forget. You know, this is a reinstallation of the entire operating system dashboard on your Xbox. It will check and upgrade firmware on the optical disk drive and things like that. So, you know, you don't really want to be leaving it to chance that the console will pick issues with this upgrade procedure. You know, you want it to go through as smoothly as possible. So give yourself the best chance by, you know, making sure that the memory sticks and things that you're using are of quality, because it can be a pain in this process if you can make it harder for yourself by just not using the correct kit. And as usual, this thing is taking forever. I'm fairly sure on another one of these Xbox videos we did, we had to download an update to that one as well. If I remember rightly, my my internet connection packed in that day as well. I probably should stop doing Xbox upgrade videos. It encourages my my ISP's internet connection to do a runner. Andrew's doing an Xbox hard disk drive upgrade video. Better make sure that we hobble his internet connection for him. Okay, so we're getting there. Slowly. 72% of the upgrade is down. Yeah, I'm expecting that internet connection to go off again in a minute, because there's no way it's right. It's supposed to be on fibre. Which most of the time it does work really well. And we're sat literally across the road from the exchange. So this definitely is not normal. But okay, half a meg to go. Download complete. Hey, I think we'll probably end up speeding that bit up in the edit, but we'll see. So verifying update. There we go. machine will reboot. So we're just leaving it, not pressing anything, not doing anything. Okay, so it does take a while to come back up, so don't get impatient. Brilliant, and there you go. So now you can continue through the rest of the setup process. That's exactly what we're going to do, just to make sure that everything comes back up and behaves as it should do. So we're going to say next. Okay, so I'm just going to go and enter my account details now. And my account password. Okay, so once you've done that, it's going to go away and connect back to your Microsoft account. So at this point, you know, you can go and download all your content again back to your box once this comes back up. If it doesn't do it automatically from the store. For now, I'm just going to leave no barriers. I mean, this is just a generic test account that I have, so I'm not too bothered. We always reset the box again before we send it back out to the customer. No, thank you. Nope. God, it takes forever just to go through this crap, doesn't it? So, daylight saving, we're going to use energy saving mode. Yeah, do what you like. I think this is usually where it gives us that daft sort of Xbox movie animation thing, which should be fun on our internet connection today. I very much doubt that's going to play today. So let's just go home. Because we ain't got any chance of streaming any video today on that connection. I mean, it took us the best part of 10 minutes to download a 40 meg update file. Right, so as you can see there now, we are back into dashboard. We have everything in, we're signed in there. Oh, look how slow everything is, lovely. Yep, our our broadband connection today is wonderful. Oh dearie me. Yeah, so it takes forever to load some images into dashboard, so you know, there ain't no way we're gonna be streaming any video. But it's a shame really, it would have been nice to see. But there we go. So at least we have everything there and everything is back. So let's see if we can find how much storage we have on our Xbox these days. My games and apps, there it is. Honestly. And you can see there at the bottom, like all storage, 1.6 terabytes free. Honestly, I wish I'd stop messing about with this dashboard. It just goes to show off, and I actually use mine at home, isn't it? I don't. I only fix them. But yeah, so we can see there, ready to install 16. So it's found some. It's found some apps for me. Lovely jubbly. It's got an update. Presumably to the Microsoft Store. Okay, queue. So 9 apps: Cortana, File Explorer, Edge, Mixer, Xbox Assist, Accessories, Settings, One Guide, and Xbox Avatars apparently. So, and it's going to install all these other little bits and pieces for me. That'll be nice. But the main thing is that thing there, bottom left-hand corner, all storage, 0% used, have 1.6 terabytes free. So by the time everything's formatted and the Xbox's system files are on there and it's used the space it wants, we have 1.6 terabytes of our 2 terabyte internal hard disk left to use. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's as hard as it gets. So as you can see, there's nothing too, it's not particularly difficult. It's just a case of avoiding those pitfalls, and providing you follow this process that we've shown you today to the letter, you should be absolutely fine. Like I said, normally when it reboots from the update procedure, it doesn't normally boot to a black screen. To be fair, more often than not, you probably find that you'll go back into the initialization menu at the update, checking for updates point. Follow that through, and then go into the system settings and reset your Xbox from there. Remember to clear everything, and then you're starting from a completely clear slate. Otherwise, like I say, you can find slightly odd things like blank tiles, or as I say, tiles with some slightly funky like internal systemy type names rather than what they should actually be displayed as. So it just ties everything back up and just cleans everything out, and you're starting from a nice clean slate. So as you can see there now, we've taken our 500GB hard disk drive and we've upgraded it to a nice 1.6 terabytes. Obviously our original 500GB hard disk drive was dead, so we're back in the land of the living and this console is ready to go again. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you've learned something today and you found this useful. Please remember to comment, rate and subscribe. If you, of course, need to arrange a repair, or you want us to quote you on a repair, then we're happy to do so. If you have a look in the description, you will find our email address in there. It is ytandrewpaul@outlook.com. Drop us an email there and we'll get back to you as soon as possible, really. If you have any questions or any comments on the video, of course, feel free to drop them below in the comment section. Drop me a private message on here. I'm also on Twitter. DM inbox is open to everybody on there. My Twitter handle is @ytandrewpaul. You can drop me a message on there, of course, if if you've got a question that you'd rather not air to the community or something a little bit sensitive in there, then fair enough, drop it in there. I do request, as I always do on these videos these days, that my outlook.com email address is my business email address, so I prefer that general questions and things with regards to the videos and what you've seen on them actually don't go there. Purely because, like I said, when I'm trying to email customers and get quotes and things to potential customers and things, if I've got to trawl through a couple of hundred messages with questions, it's kind of hard to sort of traipse through it and pull out what I need to respond to and what, to be honest, could be left on here. I do check Twitter and I do check YouTube quite regularly, so don't think you're going to get seen to any quicker. If you've dropped a question in there, to be honest, you will be quicker just either, like I say, Twitter or YouTube for questions. And then that just lets me sort of do my business related activity to my business email address. So that's fair on my other customers, and it it helps me out as well, guys. So if you can abide by that simple rule, then that'd be very much appreciated. Thank you very much in advance. So as always, I thank you for watching. Like I say, hopefully you found this useful and you've enjoyed it. Please remember to comment, rate and subscribe. We've loads more videos on the channel. If you stumbled across this and you're a new viewer, we have over 80 videos on there, most of which are console repair related. Some like this, where we're changing components, like hard disk drives and reinstalling operating systems. Some of them are component level, actual hardware repair and soldering bits of resistors and capacitors and things. So if that's the sort of thing that you're into, then please drop us a subscription and go check out our other videos. So from me, from this Xbox, we both say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. So from me, it's bye-bye for now. Many thanks for watching then, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then why not check out these recommendations below. Also, please remember to comment, rate, and of course subscribe to the channel if you found this useful. We've plenty more content on there, and there's lots more to come.